And thank you everyone for being here tonight. Appreciate your time here. I know summer's so busy and the fair and everything going on, and oh, it's a crazy time, so I know it's hard, so I appreciate it. Karina's not here because she's out of town. But she sends her apologies because she felt good about coming too, so. So this would be an opportunity to approve the August meeting minutes, but we don't have those, which is fine, so we'll just double up next time. I have to say though, for Rachel, thank you so much for keeping the minutes, and once in a while I'll look at the other committees and commissions and boards to see what's happening with their agendas and their minutes. And this group does their minutes like so fast compared to any other group, so thank you for that. You get a whole entire, totally. Okay, then none of our months behind. Not to dish any dirt or anything, some of them are months behind. So thank you, and I appreciate that. So, and it's okay that we don't have this minute or even next month. Okay, so we'll move into informational items, and the first one, Councilor Parker, if you can here to share with us what's happening from the city council perspective, we appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I'm out at the coast here, decided to take a couple vacation days before I hit the campaign trail. I've decided to run for re-election, and so I'm one of 7 people running for 3 races, 3 spots. So it's going to be a busy campaign season. I wanted to give you an update on a couple of things. The grant program that the council passed with the assistance of Carol Palmer is in the process of having the rules written, and we're hoping, the city council that is hoping to get its hands on those rules by October. It's kind of an insight into this job I have of, we work towards something, we pass it, we pass the budget, and we passed the budget in late June. And one of the reasons that I asked Carol Palmer to help prepare some rules for this is so we could get it going quickly. But these things have a life of their own. Rules have to be developed, standards needed, what the application form looks like, how do we make this equitable? So it's just something that I'm trying to push along, and we're hoping to have it in a month or 2. I did want to mention how impressed I am by the appearances of the old City Hall. That Mary Hanlon's decision to bring in Emmerich Construction, I think was a wonderful decision. And I've been doing some sidewalk supervision of that project. They put in a new roof and a lot of cement in the basement. And it is exciting to see a new owner of an historic building take care of that. And also, I'm not sure that anybody other than young Tyler may be around in 15 years, but Tyler put this on your to-do list. That City Hall will be celebrating its 100th birthday. And being one of the WPA projects, it really even plays a role to some extent, we could say, in our national history. The council had a goal setting session last week. After the rush of getting budgets prepared and passed and that type of thing, we wanted to sit down and take a look at areas that we truly wanted to focus on. And we did come up with one. And we authorized the city manager to proceed with the development of a communications position in the city. It was unanimous that the council believes that the city is at a point in its development. We're a big enough city where we really do need a full-time communications person. Jamie Stickle has taken on the role of a communication specialist in addition to everything else she's doing, and we think she's doing a great job. But it is a busy world out there in social media, and so we're looking forward to having people know more about you, what you're doing, and spreading the word about the council. And finally, again, another thing about looking behind the curtain of my job, we spent close to 6 years working on the safety zone, the quiet zone, and spent some money improving the crossings, working with Union Pacific on the rules and everything. And we turned that on a couple of weeks ago. We're still getting a few trains using their horns. Part of the problem was that two people use that track, Union Pacific, which owns it, and Amtrak, which leases it. So Amtrak was not quite up, the communication was incomplete. So Amtrak now has the word. And then secondly, in all of the safety zones, part of the reason that the safety zones have such a good record is that the conductors of the train are authorized to use their horns anytime they see somebody approaching the track, say somebody's on a bicycle or something like that. So it is up to their discretion, and you will be hearing some horns. But I talked to Tony down at the bike shop and I said, how's it been? And he said, it has been the best week of my life, not having to hear those trains. So that's what I have so far, Judy, unless anybody has a question.
I had a couple follow-ups to what you talked about, if you don't mind. I was on some email exchange with Mary Hanlon and others, and they're planning a ribbon cutting for the historic city hall sometime mid-October is the current planning, so that'll be good. And then also, and you probably know this, but Oregon City is now starting to pursue a quiet zone. And part of that is because they're interested in some downtown Oregon City development that would be like mixed development, like maybe housing and businesses together. And they think they'll be able to attract more of that if they got a bit of a quiet zone downtown, right along the tracks somewhere. So anyway, I'd mention that too. So we're not the only ones. I know we haven't been the only ones, but that's really interesting. So thanks.
Well, and I know on social media, there's been some discussion about the safety of the quiet zones. And I went back and did another look at the statistics. And really, when you think about it, the federal government is not going to let cities engage in a development that is actually going to reduce transportation safety. And the numbers show that there is no difference in terms of the effects of having a full-on horns or a quiet zone. And so everything takes a while to get adjusted to.
Right. You have something wrong?
Yeah, well, I was wondering what was going on at east side of Sequoia and 13. The former land house, all the trees that were taken out. What's going on?
That's it's an iron plant. It's for making steel girder, steel plant. Yeah, steel. There's already a steel company down on Sequoia on Township. It's US Steel, American Steel. It's the same company. They're moving another plant, a second plant in there. So on Sequoia and 13th, where they took out that old hazelnut orchard. Yeah, that's all industrial land. It was deemed industrial in the 80s. And one of the things about that land is it provides a lot of property tax to the city. And that's one thing. I mean, miners like Denver.
And another thing, one of the reasons that I support this project is that it is on a rail line.
Yeah.
And anytime I can have a business set up in Canby that doesn't use the roads, I'm all for it. I mean, I'm one of the weirdos on the council. I'd be happy to have one of those Google server farms paying a lot of property taxes with 4 people driving in each day to serve it. Because at least right now, Canby doesn't need more jobs, but what it could use is a few less people commuting in to working. And one of the things that new steel extension of American Steel is that they're able to use that Samuel's rail line and move a steel heavy product in and out without putting it on the road. So I even think that it has some environmental advantages locating there. The other thing, nobody likes to see trees going down, but my farmer friends who seem to know something about a lot more about this than I do told me that hazel orchard was at the end of its productive life.
Lighted, yeah, it had like there's an old variety of hazelnut that.
That is more fun.
Yeah, oh yeah, I mean, everybody needs to see orchard go out, you know. Good question. Jen, did you have something? Okay, all right. I think that's it, and thank you, Council Parker, appreciate that. So just real quick, what's been going on in the planning commission, so the heritage code changes that we've been working on for a while, that Northwest Vernacular helped us with, and we reviewed them with the states, and most of it was updating language. And so that went through the planning commission, and was approved by the majority vote. And then it went to the city hall, the councilors and the mayor and the councilors, and they took out one section, which was, I was hoping to get some language changed about the membership of this group, because there's a description that, you need 3 people to be within the growth boundary. And I've had to turn away 2 applicants in the last 2 years because they were both can be residents, but outside the growth boundary. And I was hoping to change that, but there were a number of different folks who didn't agree with that. So that did not change. So we still have a restriction of having at least 3 people within the city limits.
What's the growth boundary?
Well,
And, you know,
oh, they're way out. I mean, 6 miles south of here is where the Canby, you can still have a Canby address that lives 6 miles out of here. But it's, the growth boundary goes about almost like the big south, it's almost to the Moala River, if that makes any sense. And is it, what is it on this north side, Malino Road? And then on the north side, it would be Barlow.
map.
Yeah. But I remember when we were first looking to live out here, I was shocked how far out Canby went. I mean, it goes long. It goes way out. You'd be surprised. Canby meaning you never can be addressed, but way outside the city limits. So anyway, that's a good question. Okay, so that's good. We've been working on this heritage code changes a long time, so that's good. Just FYI, the Pioneer Chapel in town sold to the new owner. It's been for sale for a while. That's the one that they have, you know, they would have lots of weddings and then sometimes music events. And it's a historic property, and it's the name Jennifer Driscoll. Can't remember the person who runs the farmers market. Oh, Alexis Driscoll, she bought it. And a lot of people think very highly of her. So, and she has already been in touch with the city and knows about the heritage restrictions and everything. So we'll probably have some involved in whether that change might be, but I don't know what it is, if any. Along with the historic city hall, there's a building that's adjacent to it. That's sort of an adjunct to this old the historic city hall, and Mary Hanlon is also improving that building along with the city hall building. And the question came up because there's an old mural on that building, and likely that mural will be removed, but the city is taking photos of it just to have a, you know, have some information about it. But I don't know when that mural was put up. Anyway, so and there's been discussion with the mayor and the city council about a mural committee to maybe get some more murals in town, like other towns are doing. I guess the Dallas was there, a bunch of murals. Anyway. Yeah, Silverton has a lot of cool murals. Yeah. Anyway, so this is, in case you hear about that, the mural really isn't something that's like heritage related from the perspective of our group, but you may hear about it. What else? Then I just want to talk very, very briefly about the dog park, just because as I mentioned earlier, it came up today. It's not really in our purview in a way, but the reason it has come up to us, or to me anyway, was there is a requirement when there is public land that there is some known presence of indigenous history, that then you have to get the tribal community involved from an archaeologist perspective. Now, it doesn't mean that the city will stop the dog park project, and it doesn't mean that there'll be some digging going on or anything like that, or big archaeology site. Very, 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 very doubtful that will happen. But it is a requirement that the state requires that the tribal community get involved in that, because it's publicly owned property, it's not privately owned. And so likely, you know, they'll be contacted and they may come out, they may not. You probably know a lot more about this than I do.
In general.
Yeah,
I wasn't enough.
yeah.
It's what you done, it's the right.
Well, somebody tell me it's a law. It's not a maybe, it's a must do. I don't know why. Oh, okay, so maybe it's a state requirement.
We'll just do a walk, sector. It's not, maybe we should test that.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. And somebody said they may even ask that some signage be put up. If we're gonna put up dog park signage, that we need to put some signage that says something about the indigenous history of the area. So anyway, that's all I have. We don't really need to be involved in it unless we want to be for some reason, but there is one individual who is very confident in this area and is involved in that to push to make it happen. So I'm comfortable with that. If you guys are comfortable with that, you can just check that off the list. And I know it's a subject on the next city council meeting, so folks might be interested in talking about it there. I don't know. I think that's it. Okay. Important dates. Zion Cemetery, Market King, Yang, September 24th, Saturday, 10 to 12. I'll get this out, all over public, social media. The newspaper always does a great workup for us. It's very, very nice. And what happens is that I get a lot of messages, and like with any group, last year I had 30 people who confirmed they would come, and 2 of the 30 came. You know what the problem is? The weather's always too dang nice on the day we do. It's like the last beautiful day of summer. Let's see, do I want to scrub headstones? But we do get some of the same people every year. It's just super, super nice. And it's always a good day, and it's very rewarding, as you guys know. You all have been there many years in a row. So yeah, stay tuned. More about that, you'll see that on social media. I just wanted to mention, so we are finishing up section 4. We started section 4 last year. That's where we spent all of our effort. So so you know, Rachel's gonna spray for us this year, because that has to be done like an hour in advance. And so I went out the other day and I marked which ones need to be sprayed and which ones, because it's a smattering, you can see. So there are 166 headstones in section 4, and there's 17 that need to be finished. But people got kind of spread out. You can kind of see, kind of hard to see, but I went out there and like, nope. In section 4, there's 166 headstones, but there are only 17 left to clean. We cleaned all of them last year. 17 in section 4 need to be cleaned. And then I'm sure we'll get that done, because that probably takes about 4 people to do that in a 2-hour period. Most of them aren't that bad. You guys know well enough. Some of them take a long time. Some of them are really hard to clean. But what's left here isn't too bad. And then if we have enough people, which I'm sure we probably will, we'll start on section 6. And you think, wait a minute, why are we skipping from section 4 to section 6? That's because it's adjacent to section 4. And if you get people too spread out, you remember with the hoses going everywhere and buckets, and it's really hard to communicate. So we're just gonna take the next rows over, which happen to be section 6. So I can send that out. Now don't look at the city website, because the city website's in the historic section and never been mapped. It is mapped.
So I can be there, I can do 11. So do you want me to leave early with you and help you get stuff or?
I can always use help early.
Okay.
I'll be there. early.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but I would be
Awesome.
just crazy.
Oh.
To help set up stuff.
So I'd say 9 o'clock. We did that one, first year I ever worked in that, we were there for a while. It hoses out and,
It's.
yeah, we marked the rows, that, we started doing that with COVID, where we would mark the row, and we'd assign people to their own row, and everybody liked that, so we keep doing that. So that takes a bit of time, just to, but they're, actually from my, from my fields, or, horse, you know, everybody has animals that are putting up electric fence for horses. But we don't electrify it. We could do that for fun.
Oh, yeah. Unexpected surprise.
Somebody asked me, "Well, what is this, what are these from?" And I said, "Well, pasture." So, anyway, okay, so Zion Cemetery, I'm sure it'll be a beautiful day again, and I mean, it's so rewarding, we've done. I need to get I should have brought the numbers, close to 500 headstones that we've done. That's a lot, but the challenge is there's 1,200 left to do in the historic section. We're not gonna finish that in my lifetime.
You start with one. Two, 3, 4.
Yeah, there are 8 sections, so we've done sections 1 through 4 that have a little more than 100 in each section. And then when you get to section 6 through 8, there are more than 200 in each section. Yeah. We can still talk about it. So after we get this year done, after, yeah, after we do this year, we can sit down and think about what next. The good thing is, the other thing that's finished this year is all of the repair work that was done by the third-party company, Jeff Hilson, who's by Gloria. That's been a 5-year project, and we finished that in June. So if we come across, we'll talk about it on the day of, but if we come across any headstones that have a problem, we'll let him know, because he originally looked at all the headstones 5 years ago, and did a big project plan, and we got grant money and. Oh, absolutely, sure, something's serious land, but who knows what. So anyway, so that's been done, so that's one big project to set aside for now, which is good. In the historic section, there are 8 sections. So you could say we've done half, but that's kind of spitting the numbers, because we haven't done half of it. So the second half has many more.
Yeah.
Although they're in better shape, I have to say. So we did the gnarliest, oldest, full of lichen and moss and hard to read and scrub with, you know, oh man. So anyway, so we'll talk about it after we do this project and see where we want to take that going forward. But stay tuned, because I'll get it all out on social media and everything this coming week. Okay, the CLG grant, the Certified Local Government Grant, is coming to a close. And that's the one that we used to get the reconnaissance level survey work done for the downtown adjacent area. So our meeting last week, or last month, with Northwest Vernacular. So we wrap it all around that. It also includes like the code changes that we just finished up and some other things. I am just finishing up the final report, and I will hand that off to you, Tyler, by Thursday. So we get that Thursday, and then the deadline to get that into the state system is the weirdest deadlines, Tuesday the 20th. The deadlines, the state deadlines are so strange to me and hard to remember, because they're odd, like Tuesday. So anyway, I'll get that to you by Thursday. And then just the tentative system. Okay. I think that's it for informational items. So project updates, the big project has been the CLG grant project. A lot of work was accomplished, which is great. We also got a lot of really good volunteer hours in that, which helps with the matching process a lot. So I haven't put the final numbers together, because I'm still waiting for people to give you their volunteer hours, but because of the code changes that went into it, that includes all of the planning commission and city staff time, and anyway, it's going to be good. Good. We are not applying for another one right now. It takes a lot of prep work, and the deadline is, I think, February. And so we probably just don't have the bandwidth, I think, to do another one right now. So we'll have time in the next few months to talk about another CLG grant. We've done 5 in a row. Anyway, so they're good grants, and we put them to good use, but we probably will have to take a break for this next grant session, and then we'll have time to think about, thinking about maybe sitting with the planning commission even and talking about now we've got all this inventory, we've got all the reconnaissance level survey and what's happening with the housing analysis and the housing study, and where do those two things come together, and what should we do with the CLG money to try to, we can have a lot of studies done, so something to think about. Okay, then the other discussion item, I'll put your name on it, Jennifer, if you don't mind, to talk a little bit about.
Yeah, so, I think we touched on it the last time, we were, trying to, well, going back, let's step back. So there's a binder, which is actually, I went into the preservation plan itself to look at the wording in there, because the binder actually mentioned the preservation plan.
It is? Oh, I don't remember that.
Oh, yeah, it's deep down, it's like, I don't know, page. So, it's mentioned in there, and actually in there, it says specifically that we need to make scan that, with the recommendation. So, there's a binder that has, that we have, that is a hard copy of the 1984 Cultural Resource Survey sheet for houses for sites. And then it also has some Clackamas County information, background on these sites that is from 89 to 92 and maybe in 94 as well. And there's handwritten notes from Peggy Sigler on there, who was working on that project. And so there's some specific handwritten information on there about these different houses that is historic. Like this person lived here from this time to this time. This is some other, background information on the property. And we aren't really sure if that information lives anywhere besides on that piece of paper in this binder. So going back, we were trying to figure out if we wanted to scan that. And I've already scanned a lot of it and sent it to the party. So I think we need to scan it. I think that needs to be the first thing we need to look at. So I'm using the scanner on my phone to do it, the scanning app. I can't, for some reason, my scanner at home isn't talking to my computer anymore. I don't know, because it's 5 years old, it's decided to just forget that it knows my desktop. So I can't use my scanner at home to do it. I was thinking about seeing if I could come in and scan, and we can get that into a soft copy form, where it's gonna live. Yes, in the HLC document, or is that all the
Shared drive.
document?
Shared drive.
I guess,
What kind of thing is it?
it's in a binder paper, right? It's old school. It's old school, Ron.
Handwritten.
Oh, it's old school. It was, she probably worked on that. So it's, yeah, it's, it's our age group. So, we need to do that first. Now, beyond that, it what?
Xerox.
No, it's.
It's a joke.
I don't. Some of it is. But yeah, so it's, we need to get that copy. Because I mean, I have it and all.
Xerox is a joke.
So we need to do that, and then long term, maybe you can help me put this in the words, Judy, what we were thinking about doing is trying to get all of the historic sites inventory into one document somehow, and put that all together, so everything that we have,
Any property that's been inventoried Whether it's just the outside or the outside, the inside, we want all that, we all have one place.
We thought it was SHPO.
Yeah.
And it's not, and we've got, we've got probably 3 different surveys now, maybe 4. And then we also have potential lists of whatever is in city limits to try to put in. So really no place you can go right now and say, drive up to a house and say, this address, okay, what do we have? What information do we have? There's no place you can really go for sure to know that for our historic sites database or counties. You can go to the state, you can see, but we don't really have that. Now, I guess the question is that's a lot of work. What other cities do for this? It's a very good question. I haven't got that far. I've had a really busy month last month. I got sidetracked with a lot of stuff, so I haven't come home a lot. So this is kind of our brainstorming moment right now. I've spent a lot of time on it, but I'm kind of envisioning seeing this kind of take place like Q2 or Q3 of next year. This isn't like an immediate need, but we got to do, first of all, once we figure out what it is and we dump it in there, we actually need to do windshield survey and stuff because to see if it's still there and take a picture potentially of each one, and you want to do that when it's winter because trees and things and so there's that too. It's kind of going back to something we've done on a small scale,
Right.
but this is like a large scale, lots of work type of thing.
Some of that is potentially getting a COG grant to help with some components of that.
Yeah, so, I guess my, thought is that legitimately, I think it's also in the preservation plan, it's not worded like that, but there is mention of it. And I kind of wanted next time to go back to the short-term goals in the preservation plan, because I was really looking at it today, and,
It's our roadmap.
it is our roadmap, and I don't really go off the roadmap too much, it's a little bit off the roadmap, but it relates to the roadmap, and there's some things on the short term, and I think short term is by 2025, that we probably have to get on, like right away, because that's. And there's there's like 20 things on there, and I was looking at them, I was like, ooh, okay,
It's a good idea, like for November or something.
yeah, so.
Use the road.
Not that I don't think this is important, but when I went back to the short-term goals on that roadmap, there's some stuff that I think we must, like, where it's getting conquest and start getting some, so that's. And I don't really know how this is gonna look. Huge document, is it interactive, is it not, is it click on picture, I mean, it's gonna be something where it's gonna live. We don't have our own page or our own location yet, well, we do, but don't, so.
It really varies, like you said, by city. So I've been to a number of the state heritage conferences, and so is Carol. And so we hear from other cities. Salem has an awesome, that's Salem. When you look at their website, you can see very clearly, they've got great informational resources about the historic districts and what's there. And there's 3 of them. Albany also, but that's forget it, the association, it's not doing it, it's like a business owner, town business owners group or something. So most cities that I've seen that have done this, it's not the city that's doing it, but it resides on the city website. So, yeah. It's interesting. One town, it was a genealogical society for their town, I can't remember which town it was. Yeah, we don't have that either.
No, and, yeah, I mean, it's, I think where it becomes important is if you have interested citizens and you were trying to get people interested in the house they live in, I bought a house, or thinking about buying a house, or I'm selling my house, or, I mean, people want to know about their property, and if they have no way to know, they don't know how to look that stuff out or stuff out. I mean, I think Oregon City has a pretty good, Oregon City has a nice little blurb on their website about how to look up the property.
Oh, okay. That's
how to see about your property and, it's public outreach, which, you know, we can definitely do a better job. It's not falling under that purview, but, you know, I mean, people need to feel invested and we're interested in it. So,
Well, one of the interesting things that came up recently was, again, it was an individual couple who bought a house over by Wake Park, White House, White House. It's not White House, not White Family with the Whites, and they have big history in Candy. And so they said, you know, how do we find out about our house? Super great people. And when we looked at the state website, there was what they call a resource, cultural resource form, an electronic image, but it was only one page. And when Jennifer looked in the book, there's like 6 pages, but they're not all into the states. Nobody knows how that happened either.
well, we think it lives in the county.
Oh,
So the
that's
information,
interesting.
yeah, all of those extra pages that have all the history. and
Yeah,
all
the good part.
The historical significance of the location, was done by Clackamas County. It wasn't done by, I mean, that's who did it. That's, they had a big push. And Peggy was kind of part of that.
Right.
And then they sort of lost traction on it at some point, so it's definitely a certain area. They didn't really do south of town much at all, just a few locations, but anyway, so that was also part of it, is going to the county and saying, or is it in, you know, a file? Or is it even around? It's a whole nother, like, thing. So. But it'd be nice for people to get that information, people more invested in, history of it. And most likely to modify or carry it on if it's something that's, you know, cool. So action item, I wanna figure out how to scan it. So if I'm not the one that has it, I can find having it. It's safe with me, but, I think it should be something that people look at.
Or we have money somehow that we could take it to the protein company, another thing on this downtown, right here.
To scan.
They probably have to pass.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine doing it, I just need to know.
How many, do you know how many pages it is?
There's 64.
It's one binder, but it's thick.
It's very big. So there's 64 different sites, locations, and each one is probably 10 pages, 7 to 10 pages front and back.
It's 500 plus.
And that's the other problem, it's front and back too, so if we,
Oh,
yeah, you can see like on a page, like the other side. So it's a copy of my original, so if the original still lives, it's great too.
and then it's maybe 1,000 pages.
But the handwriting stuff is what we want too, you know. And Peggy was very clear to tell me that that was her information. It's not like verified, and, you know, it's her research, it's her research, it's from, yeah, so take it with yourself a little bit, but, you know, it's better than nothing. So, okay, that's the.
And to be fair, cities generally aren't in the business of history. Other societies, and things like that, so. But I agree, part of my career when I was still working was records management. So thinking about documents that belong to companies that have been around forever, and how do they manage that, and where does it go, and in what format, it's huge data. Electronic information is always, and it's always hard to figure out what to do with it and where should it go. I was at the Depot Museum with Laura, who's the owner of the White House. We were at the Depot Museum, and somebody handed me a CD and said, well, here's some pictures. I said, I don't own a CD player anymore. I can't put a CD in my computer. you have a thumb drive, that changes, so that stuff, so they have a lot of CDs, as do probably a lot of people. But now that's a technology they have to have converted, and that was something they did a while back.
I have a map. I have to be a good.
Anyway, so that is part of Nora. But Nora, as a museum curator and director, that's a big challenge for her, she had things, and they had it on like floppy drives, and then they put them on CDs, and now those aren't any good anymore, so. It's
Well, the other binder is full of slides
really hard.
of pictures of the, the location, of the locations that they look. I have a slide. But those need to be stored in certain. They're in pockets. And
The slides.
Okay. Well, thank you for looking into that. I appreciate you being the shepherd right now of that.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting, yeah. And it's funny because I know you can see it a lot more than I do, but when we're able to give a citizen, a new citizen, the information about their houses, they get so excited. Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
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 It happens, yeah.
What business do they own in town?
So Tyler, should I, email you to kind of coordinate?
I'll check in with that and you can, that's the best option. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that they, say gives people a sense of place, when you're really interested in where they live and how that contributes, and, it's funny. Okay,
I remember the people who bought that house and bought that.
All right,
So
yeah.
they were at corporate.
Yeah.
They were on that. Yeah, they were. So it's fine. Yeah.
Right. Cameron, her husband, said to me, I walked out one day and I told Laura, I said, did we just move into a Hallmark movie? And I'm like, wow. Because they're there and the lights are twinkling in the trees at Christmas time, and I mean, what a great place to live with there. I know. No, it's green. Green, but the Whites were a very prominent family in the history of Canning, and they owned a livery store and a blacksmith shop, and then they owned the first Ford dealership in town, and so, yeah, they've been around a long, long time. So she bought, it's called the Doc White House. Nobody knows why he's called Doc, because he lives in Doc. So that's a Boston history. Doc White. Is it, yeah, okay. All right. Well, that's all I have for today. Anything else?
Is Granite Street named for the window in Kansas history?
The question is, Grant Street named for a person, or is it named for a tree? Yeah, I don't know. I asked Nora. Grant Street. I'll ask Nora, who's the head of the museum. She knows, she's like this encyclopedic knowledge. And somebody else asked, what's not street? They, it's all alphabetical tree names, and then why is there not KNOTT? And I'm like, I don't know.
I think Grant, I'll see what I can find. Because I think that's in one of the history like that. I don't know why I saw that.
We were on the street. Yeah, Nora and I were going to the street. She said this used to be Pendleton Street. I think it was Ivy, and it was from Pendleton Street, because the Pendletons had the big, I don't know if it was a land grant that they had out that way, to get out like I-13 way out there. They had a huge farm. They're the ones whose grave sites were moved out to Zion Cemetery. Just my eyes, so big, a lot of family members in Zion. You want the address of the house?
Well, no.
Yes, her name's Judy Ox.
Said she, when I told her, she thought it was bird.
Oh, so she wanted a bird park, right? Oh,
And she said that. Birds were on the television.
yeah, yeah. She's another one that knows a lot about history, so if you want to know about history, come to the yard sale Friday and Saturday, it's all the historians be there. I'll be there, but I'm not a historian. That's a good question, so we'll have to research that. Not street too, it's like, not. Yeah. Okay, anything else? Thank you, everyone, appreciate it, so. Summer's coming to a close, and thank you, Council Parker, appreciate you. And then I guess we'll see each other, on September 24th for the Zion. Yeah, the D2